Hey, everybody, this is Josh McKinney, and I just want to welcome you to episode 98 of the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show. So, just wanted to start out today and talk to you guys a bit about something no one talks about in jiu-jitsu, or something you don't hear discussed enough in jiu-jitsu, in my opinion. So, for a lot of people, we just think about techniques and situations, meaning the knee cut. And I'm going to do the knee cut when I am in daily heel guard. And that is a technique and a situation, right? This is why I do what I do. It's not as simple as that. If you think of jiu-jitsu as just this should always be my response to this movement or this grip or this position, I think you're missing out on a really important factor in jiu-jitsu, and a factor in jiu-jitsu that people tend to master by accident. They tend to master it without thinking about it, without naming it, without discussing it. It's just part of things, and something that I would say that this is more true in Brazil than it is in, or at least with the Brazilian people I've fought and coached against, than it is in America. I really do feel like a lot of the Brazilian guys understand strategy so much more than a lot of the good Americans. And it's just not discussed in America for some reason. It's thought of that winning by an advantage is evil. You shouldn't win a close match. You shouldn't win. You should submit everybody. And I know that that's great in theory, but it is not great in practice. Most of the time, it causes you to wear yourself out. It causes you to wear yourself out in the gym. It causes you to wear yourself out in tournaments. In the gym, when we get tired, we tend to lose the amount of time that we could train. We tend to lose a lot of time where we could be focused on getting better at jiu-jitsu. But in a tournament, maybe I am so focused on submitting because that's what I believe is the most important thing. And I wear myself out against somebody that I am substantially better than because they're only focused on defending. They can recognize that my strategy is to try to finish. And what happens then is I'm tired for my next match, and I'm more tired for my next match. And I may even lose to people that I am substantially better than as a technician. I have a deeper understanding of jiu-jitsu. Maybe even I am physically superior to also. But if I use the wrong strategy, I can waste a lot of energy. I can put myself in bad spots, and ultimately I can lose my match. Now, there are a lot of different strategies that you can use when you are in a jiu-jitsu match, but I really wanted to make sure that we understood that using strategies while live rolling is not just to win that round or win that match. Sometimes we use strategies to get better at jiu-jitsu and even get our team better at jiu-jitsu. And I know that that sounds kind of weird. Like, what does that mean? Well, you're using a strategy to get better overall. And it's because it's a big factor in jiu-jitsu, using the right technique at the right time. For example, a double leg is a great technique, right? And I can use certain grips. Maybe I have a collar grip break where I use it into a double leg. I do an arm drag to a double leg. It's a great technique. Now, does that mean that always when somebody grabs my collar, I need to go for this technique? For example, I might be in a match where I am winning by 20 points, and trying to shoot a double is going to be a waste of energy, and it's probably unnecessary when I could survive. When I could make the person who's losing have to push the pace, and I can try to beat them on their mistake instead. Or what if I'm doing an open class? What if I'm fighting a guy that's 300 pounds and I weigh 190? Do you think it's smart for me to go out and try to hit a strong double leg on this guy? No, it's not. Even if it's a great technique that I use, that is what strategy is deciding what you are going to use. You look at your tools and you decide what you can do to make a situation happen that you need. And so I thought the easiest way to explain this were to give you guys the 3 reasons that we might use a strategy and 3 strategies that go with those reasons. The first and the simplest reason that we might use a strategy is to win a match, whether in the gym or whether in competition. I know that the idea of winning in the gym is like frowned upon, right? It really shouldn't be. The idea of only wanting to win and finding your value from winning in the gym, that is something that we need to not do. That's something we need to push away. That's a mindset that is actually not only bad for us, but bad for our entire team. People see that winning is all that matters in the gym and not getting better. I don't think that is a good thing to do as a competitor or as just an artist. So, but there are definitely, if you're competing, the goal is to win, regardless of, people tell you, oh no, the goal is to finish, it's to win in a specific way. It is not. The goal is to win under whatever rule set that you have. And that is why rule sets are never going to push the pace in a jiu-jitsu match. A lot of people get so upset that, oh, I think that this rule set is the best one, or this rule set is the best one. Jiu-jitsu will probably never be a great spectator sport besides for people that understand jiu-jitsu. There's just too much going on in a jiu-jitsu match. You can claim that submission only is the way to go until you see a guy lay in bottom side control with his hands on both of his lapels and do nothing for like 5 minutes. That's boring. It's more boring than somebody who wins a match by an advantage, right? And so we can't eliminate that. Our goal in any match is always to win, and strategy is a big way to win. And so I'll talk to you guys about something I always call the loop strategy. And so what you want to do in the loop strategy, what that idea of the loop strategy is I create a loop in a match for one of 2 reasons. One, because I guess you could go with 3 reasons. So one is, let's go with 2. I think 2 sounds better. Let's go with 2 reasons. First reason that we might use the loop strategy is I am trying to eat up clock. I'm winning on points, and I am going to create a loop that they have to keep fighting in. For example, if you ever watched the movie, the first Doctor Strange, spoiler alert, if you are 5 years behind and have not seen that movie yet, Doctor Strange at the end of the movie creates a time loop for the main bad guy. And what happens is it eventually wears the bad guy down. Even though he's winning every single time, he's still caught in the same loop. He's still caught in the same thing over and over and over again. And so, for example, a loop strategy might be I'm up 2 points and there's 3 minutes on the clock. And I obviously need to stay active. I obviously need to keep attacking, but I could create a loop for my opponent. So maybe I put them in close guard. And this is one of my favorite loops to create because it's really, really easy. And so what I do is I get them in close guard. They're on their knees. The first thing I address is their sleeve grip. I try to break a sleeve grip, because what happens when you break a sleeve grip from closed guard is it makes it much harder to posture. A lot of times our posture is created by us pushing into the ribs or pushing into the lapels and creating that space. That's kind of the barrier in between us. Then from there, when they start to address those grips, I'm trying to break their grips, I use my legs to pull them close to me. I break their posture, and then I give them a hug. And then the third part of the loop is I try to catch a collar choke. My guard never opens. Go with an aggressive collar choke right off of their posture. Sometimes you will finish guys from this. That's not actually the goal of the strategy, but some people are good at defending collar chokes, or maybe you're just good at setting it up and you're able to finish them. The real goal of the strategy is to create this where now they have to defend the choke. As soon as the choke is missed, as soon as I realize I'm not deep enough, I let go of the choke and I go back to the sleeve to start to break the grip break the posture, and then attack the neck again. And we do this over and over and over because it creates a time loop for our opponent. It is very discouraging as the person on top to respond and not have success. A lot of times, people will even be more open to putting themselves in omoplatas or triangles from the closed guard just to escape this position, just to escape this time loop, right? And so that is a really basic idea of what I would call the loop strategy. And I think it's really cool to practice this in your gym. And how the best way to practice it is to tell the person that you're going with, hey, let's do this. I'm going to put you in closed guard. Your goal is to pass my guard, and we're going to pretend that I'm winning on points. And you set a timer and you practice it. And then you switch top to bottom and you practice it. And you practice this strategy, you practice this idea because it's so valuable. The other two times that we might use it, that's why I was struggling when I said we might use this 2 or 3 different ways. The other way that we might use this, or reason we might use a loop strategy in a match, is because they are winning what we call the energy bar battle. The energy bar battle is not like an energy bar you eat, like the energy bar at the top of the screen when you play a video game. And they have 100% health and I'm down to 30% health. I am gassed and they are not. If I create a loop, especially one that doesn't require a lot of energy from me, what I can have happen is I can either tire them out or rest enough to where I have energy and I can start attacking. And I can even do this if I'm losing in a match. A lot of times people don't think about that. Think about, well, you can't waste any time when you're losing. Sometimes you start to get tired when you're losing a match. You're wore out. And so what your mindset says is, okay, there's 4 minutes left. I have to fight so hard for these 4 minutes. Well, it's probably not the best idea, because if you're tired, then the more you push, the more tired you're going to be. If you say, okay, I've got 3 minutes, or say maybe I could score in 3 minutes. So I'll take an entire minute to rest and I will just put them in a loop and wear them out. Like I said, I always notice, maybe I'm wrong about this, but I always notice that this is just more common with Brazilian athletes. They understand how to play strategy. I don't know if it's taught more. It's also probably the person I think is best at this out of anybody that I know is my friend Junior. He was on episode 29, Junior Silva. And we didn't talk about strategy as much. Next time I have him on, we've already talked about that. We will have to discuss that more. But he is so good at creating strategies in the middle of matches or right before matches. I've been at tournaments and he'll walk up to me and he'll say, hey, this guy has a really good pass. I think you should do this. And it will just be a little idea of, when he steps here, be ready to off balance him and then do it over and over. Right. And he's just so good at formulating those strategies. Another example of this, if you watch Tainan Daltra versus Yago Souza, they just fought at Pans. It was a really, really good match. But at the end of the match, there's a point where Tainan is up by 2 points against Yago, and Yago has about 1:30 left. And if you watch, he looks up at the clock and he breathes for 30 seconds and just soaks up some energy, just gets enough for the next fight that he's about to create. And then he creates that fight and he ends up missing the back take by about 2 seconds. He gets both hooks in with a second left and you need 3 seconds to win the match. He ended up losing. But that strategy, that little rest, was absolute genius at a time that most people would have stressed themselves out. Most people would have said, there's 1:30. I have to go as hard as I can right now. And then they're too tired to do what they try to do anyway. And so that's just another example of strategy. So the big first reason that we might use strategy is to win a match, to win a round. The second reason that we might use strategy is to get better at something. When we're in jiu-jitsu, again, it is not just technique that is happening. We also have to think about the other aspects of jiu-jitsu. Something I see a lot, And this people run into at white and blue belt most often, but I see purple, brown, black belts that are not good at this. Some people suck at time management, meaning I am trying to do a 5-minute match and I only have two paces. The pace of I'm going as hard as I can and I am going to, my heart's going to explode, or the pace of I am just holding on for dear life. And that is not something you should do. You should be able to, as you progress, see jiu-jitsu a few moves ahead. And that doesn't mean I actually know what technique is going to happen 3 moves from now. What that means is I have a general idea of my pace. When I'm on top, even if I'm using the same exact passing techniques, I may be using them at a pace of 15%. I may be using them at a pace of 100%. But I have to be able to manage that and learn what percentage I should be using my ability at. This is how you train that. And I call this, it's a stupid name, I know. It's just called the time management strategy. If you guys have a better name for the time management strategy, let me know. We could call it the Doctor Strange strategy, even though I just used the Doctor Strange for the loop. We could call them all the Doctor Strange strategies. I don't know. That was my bad for not having a better name. I'm sorry, guys. I'll just quit podcasting. Right? No, you know what? We'll continue with the podcast. I've already recorded some content. Let's just go with it. So we're going to use the time management strategy. And how that works is this is not a strategy for winning. Okay. This really doesn't have anything to do with trying to win this specific match. It has a strategy for understanding how to choreograph a jiu-jitsu match using your pace, using your techniques, of course, but using your pace. And how I always the first rule that I'll give guys when I'm explaining this to some of my students, like, hey, I think you need to get better at managing your pace. I want you, when you are doing a regular round, especially when somebody that you're better than, I want you to finish them in the last 30 seconds of the round. What that does is kind of 2 things. First, it keeps you aware of the clock. Okay. So you are looking at, okay, there's a minute left. I need to get to a dominant position. I am in this person's half guard. I am not finishing them from here. And so it gives you these little steps where you can focus on in rounds to say, okay, well, there's 2 minutes left. I need to finish him in a minute and a half. I should put him in side control and try to wear him out for 30 seconds. And then I'll step over to mount with my underhook and I'll start my attack series in the last minute. And usually it takes me a few seconds to submit somebody so I can just keep a lot of pressure on them, wear them out more, and then try to get my finish with 30 seconds left. What that does is it starts to choreograph rounds, and it will blow your mind how easy it is to get good at this. You just have to roll with people that you're better than. This is not something to do with, at least this specific rule of the time management strategy is not something to do when you are going with somebody that you're even with or is better than you. What you would do, for example, if I'm going with somebody who I have really close rounds with, I will still do this strategy, not from I'm going to submit them with 30 seconds left. If it's a close round, with somebody, you probably just can't make that happen on a consistent basis. But what I will do is I will say, okay, with 30 seconds left, I'm going to be in a dominant position. And what that does is it gives me another fight to try to get to. It gives me another idea, another general goal besides, well, I'm just going to try to finish this guy. That goal is so unspecific. We talk about this on the podcast all the time, how unspecific goals get unspecific results. And so we have to be better at being specific with our mindset, specific in the middle of rounds. And so that is kind of my favorite thoughts on the time management strategy. I think people that are probably purple belts, blue belts, that are starting to get better than people that or have a lot of people in the gym that they're beating regularly. This is a strategy, just learning how to pace without gassing yourself out and while still winning is really, really important. And probably, I think, the most valuable strategy to do on a consistent basis. Now, the last reason that we might use strategies are to get our team better. And I know that might sound like, if you are a lower belt, if you're just not as good, maybe that sounds ridiculous. Man, it's not my job to get my team better. I'm struggling enough to get myself better. Pretty much at every gym, unless you're first just starting out, there are people that you are better than. The best thing that you can do with your jiu-jitsu is get them as good as you. And I know that that is unattainable a lot of the time. And I know that it sounds like, well, that's not my job. But if you can create better training partners later down the line, if you ever want to be a coach, you will have practiced coaching. You will have practiced getting people better at jiu-jitsu, and you also will have better training partners. And the better your training partner, the better you're going to be at jiu-jitsu. Atos proves this all the time, right? Gyms like that, where they have a lot of really good guys. They've created just a phenomenal room. And then their teenagers are coming up now who have just been training in that room, and they're amazing. They're super good at jiu-jitsu because they have great training partners. And the better training partners that we create, the better our team is going to be. The better our team is, the better that we will be. And as much as jiu-jitsu is just two athletes out there, it is a team sport. None of us can get good at jiu-jitsu without a team, without some form of a team, even if that team is two people. None of us can get good without that. And so the big strategy that I have to help your team get better is what I call the exposure strategy. And what you try to do with specific people, I wouldn't do this as a general thing. Everybody in the gym, this is how I'm going to train with. I would do it with people that I train with consistently. I look at it as, okay, this guy is really, really good at every part of jiu-jitsu, but he has no understanding of ankle lock defense. So what I'll do is I will start to ankle lock him a lot. And I'm not doing it to be a jerk. And I don't even express that that's why I'm doing it. But what it does is, or what it should do at least, doesn't do this for everybody. What it should do is it should expose your training partner to a hole that they have in their game. And very seldom do we ever get to see that because, I don't know, it's kind of a weird thing. If you see a big hole in one of your training partner's games, a lot of times you'll like avoid it. And I see this with a lot of people. See guys that get guillotined all the time and they're frustrated by it. And so people stop guillotining them. They start getting good at defending. They just stop guillotining them. You see that too often, like to be nice, because you're going with the same guy. You don't want to, break his spirit. And of course you don't. But what you can do is say, hey, I'm hitting this ankle lock on you a lot. You know how you defend that? And you try to expose them and expose their flaws and help them through that. And what will happen in turn, of course, is you're going to get good at the ankle lock, because now this guy who you've been ankle locking a bunch is going to start to go down the YouTube rabbit hole, look at ankle lock defense, start to learn how to defend. And then what you do is you keep pushing it. You keep trying to see if you can finish it until that hole that you exposed is no longer a hole. Of course, you progress from that, but you also help your teammates with that. This is actually something that happened to me when I was at purple belt. And I had just gotten my brown belt. When I had just gotten my brown belt, I feel like the Midwest was a little bit behind. I mean, it was probably a lot behind, but we like to say a little bit. It was a little bit behind from when it came to technique from New York and LA and even Florida and obviously Brazil and places like that. It was just behind. It's just makes sense. There were less black belts here. There were less people teaching jiu-jitsu, less people doing jiu-jitsu. We're going to be behind. And the big place that we suffered for a long time was in leg locks. And it's because the mindset on leg locks the archaic mindset on leg locks, it stuck around. And people would say like, oh yeah, leg locks don't work. You wouldn't want to use them for any type of MMA fight because you get hit. You won't want to use them for jiu-jitsu because some people are just tough and they're just not going to tap to any leg locks. And so it's almost a waste. And I heard that all the time. Like even at purple belt, I was hearing that, people saying that. And there were a few tournaments that I got beat with leg locks as a purple belt, or maybe one that I can think of. I got hit with a straight ankle lock and didn't think much of it, didn't realize that that was just a huge hole in my game that I had. And at the time, I think maybe I just got my brown belt or I was about to. Justin Huff and I, who's been on the podcast, we kind of came up together and trained together a lot in my garage. And there was like a few month span where Justin was like ankle locking me all the time. He would ankle lock me like 2 or 3 times a practice. And I am, at the time, a really, really good purple belt. Very seldom that I ever get submitted. And, Justin was submitting me. I was bigger than him. We, like I've been training longer, and he was submitting me over and over with that ankle lock. And what it did was it exposed a really big hole that I had in my game. And I started to focus on defense and focus on defense and focus on defense until eventually I started to focus on offense. I started enjoying that part of my game and enjoying the leg attacks. And without someone, not that he even on purpose used the exposure strategy, he didn't say to himself, I am going to expose this hole, but he saw a hole in my game and just kept pushing it until eventually I started getting better at defending. This is funny too. The other day, I always will think that I'm going to be able to ankle lock Justin. And every time the same thing happens. So I get to really good position on Justin, knock him to his butt. I'm deep on the ankle and we're doing no-gi. I'm like, oh yeah, this is it. He's done on this. And then he uses his short, muscular Tyrannosaurus Rex arms and locks in on my ankle. And my mind went from I'm pulling his foot off to, oh gosh, I've got to escape. And I think I did get out of it, but I was the one being offensive and it didn't work. So sometimes those holes still are slight. You still have those holes, right? And you also look at like someone like that who just kept attacking that, and that is also a huge part of his game now, just because he chose to find a hole and keep pushing it and keep pushing it. And I think that is where I'll leave you guys, just on those 3 different reasons that we might do strategy. And I would love to hear from you guys what your favorite strategy in jiu-jitsu is, or if you even have any strategies in jiu-jitsu that you like to use. This is obviously something that's not a technique or even a group of techniques. It's just a general idea on what you can dictate what jiu-jitsu is being done and how a match is going. So that is pretty much all I have for you guys today. I thought I would just do a simple episode about something I wanted to talk about for a while. If you guys like these type of episodes where I am just talking to you and explaining something in jiu-jitsu, I have excellent news for you. We are going to start a Patreon page at episode 100. So 2 weeks from today, there will be, 2 weeks from the day that this is released, there will be a Patreon page. I think it'll either be September like 23rd or 24th, something like that. But we will be doing a Patreon page. And what that will be is a very small monthly fee, and you will get access to, I'm bringing back a segment in the show called Suck Less Saturday. What we would do on Suck Less Saturday is I would take 5 to 15 minutes and talk about a mindset in jiu-jitsu or an idea in jiu-jitsu and just something to kind of focus on for your week. And it's made to be short, so it could be your like morning drive, your Saturday morning drive to jiu-jitsu practice. And so if you guys want access to that, it will be made available for you in 2 weeks. And hopefully we can get a lot of people to enjoy that, because that's one of my favorite things to do on the podcast, is just to express the ideas that I have, the mindsets that I have on jiu-jitsu that I think a lot of times are unique, and it helps me kind of decide where my focus should be on jiu-jitsu, because I have to be planning out episodes for you guys and answering questions for you guys. And so be on the lookout for that within the next week. That's pretty much all I have for you guys today. I hope today's episode was good for you. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope that it helps you suck just a little bit less at jiu-jitsu.